Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores coming with a quick video. Just wanted to talk about Bryce Love possibly returning from IR. And also, our offensive line is nowhere near as bad as y'all think. I'm telling y'all, promise me. We're going to dive into that after this fire intro. Let's get it. Alright, so first of all, with Bryce Love, who's been on IR basically this whole season, and he was redshirted last year. We drafted him in the 2019 draft. He redshirted last year because of the injury he sustained, his season-ending injury in college. And then this year, he was playing a little bit in training camp, and he looked very explosive, according to the reports coming out of camp, but ultimately he just wasn't healthy enough to actually play. And it was like a mix of that with also they wanted to see what Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick could bring. So they were basically like, there's no rush to bring him back. Now he started practice this week. He returned to practice today from his knee injury. And the team has 21 days to activate him or leave him on IR for the rest of the season. So he basically has 21 days to prove that he can stay healthy enough to actually be moved up to the active roster. And I'm assuming he will replace Peyton Barber. So I'm going to definitely keep y'all up to tabs on that because, I mean, if y'all remember, Bryce Love was crazy in college. I mean, speed, burst, everything. Y'all see what Christian McCaffrey is doing at the NFL level. Bryce Love was better at Stanford than Christian McCaffrey was at Stanford. In 2017, the year that he was fully healthy, he ran for 2,118 yards in 13 games. And it's crazy, I mean, because he does project to be a pretty decent receiving back also. But, I mean, that season he had 2,118 yards. He only caught 6 passes for 33 yards. Like, it's not like he's just this ultimate receiver type of guy. His rookie season, he had 15 receptions for 250 yards, and that was his most productive receiving season by far ever in his college career. He only ended up with 465 receiving yards compared to his 3,865 rushing yards he had all throughout college. But, I mean, he does project well as a nice dual threat back, but he's more of like a shifty Barry Sanders type of guy. In between the tackles, very shifty, not a Chris Thompson, not a J.D. McKissick. Again, he projects well. Like, he shows traits on film that he should be able to be a good receiving back, but it's not like that's what he did in college. The year he had over 2,000 yards rushing on the ground, he had 33 yards receiving. And if y'all remember from training camp, his name was buzzing. I mean, it was at one point in time, it sounded like he was going to be the starting running back week 1 off of how much we heard about him in training camp. And they were saying that he looked like the most explosive back in the running back group. It was crazy. And Rivera spoke on it recently this week. He said, you see the quickness is still there. Saw the burst. Good hands out of the backfield. At Stanford, ran up inside and ran outside because of his quickness and speed. Be interesting to watch him develop and grow. Good to have him back on the field. So, I mean, that sounds pretty positive. And it sounds like they wouldn't make that move to bring him back to practice unless he was ready. So, assume that he will be upgraded to active roster at some point this season within those 21 days. And we'll be able to see some Bryce Love throughout the season. Even if we do end up having a losing season and don't win a division and end up with a top pick, which is what I'm hoping for. At the very least, we're getting to see what Cam Sims can do. We're getting to see Montez Sweat develop. We're seeing Terry McLaurin take off and become one of the best wide receivers in the league. We're going to get a chance to see what Bryce Love can do. Antonio Gibson is only getting better every game. Cole Holcomb's only getting better and better. There's little pieces around that are finally showing signs of development and improvement, which is what Ron Rivera wanted to do before he attacked this offseason and this regular season. It looks like it's finally coming into fruition. And I mean, another bright spot, look at Cornelius Lucas. Look at the gem we found. Speaking of Cornelius Lucas, I gotta talk about his offensive line. I'm not sure if y'all know, and I mean, even coming from me that always takes Pro Football Focus grades with a grain of salt, not sure if y'all know, but Cornelius Lucas was the highest graded tackle in week 9 with an 86.1 grade. Again, I take Pro Football Focus grades with a grain of salt. Their advanced statistics and all of their stat things are, I mean, they're just facts. But when it comes to their grades and rankings, you always have to take it with a grain of salt. But even if he wasn't literally the best tackle last week, the fact that he's even considered up there with those guys shows that we finally found a gem at left tackle. It looked like Jerron Christian wasn't as bad as a lot of people thought, and I was fine with Jerron Christian, but it looks like Cornelius Lucas is out here balling. They're basically saying he's our best offensive lineman. He is currently the only NFL offensive tackle, the entire NFL, that has played at least 45 snaps and hasn't allowed one pressure. Before the bye week against the Cowboys, his first start for us, he didn't allow any pressures, QB hits or anything. And then against these Giants, even as bad as the offensive line looked at times, it wasn't coming from his side. He allowed no pressures in that game also. No QB hits, no sacks, no anything. No hurries, no nothing. And it's crazy because he only played 2 snaps from 2014 all the way through mid-2020 when he played before the bye week. 2. Literally 2. At left tackle specifically, because he played right tackle some for the Bears. He was a backup, and then he finally earned himself a starting spot for the Bears, and then they let him go, and we picked him up in free agency. But he's only played left tackle twice since 2014, before that Cowboys game. In the last 2 games for us, he played 122 snaps, 74 of them being pass blocking snaps, and again, he has allowed no sacks, no hits, no hurries, no pressures, nothing. But we do have to remember he is 6'8", 327 pounds. I mean, all of the potential and intangibles are there. He just had to package it all together and put it on the field. It looks like he's finally doing that. And we may have found us a gem at left tackle. We'll have to see what it looks like for the rest of this season. But if he can emerge as a consistent, good, in the way he's playing right now, Pro Bowl level left tackle, we're good. It changes our whole draft strategy, our whole free agency strategy. It is a dream come true, especially since his contract is so cheap. I mean, to avoid breaking down all the numbers, just know that this year he's only a $1.66 million cap hit. And next year, he's only a $2.14 million cap hit. So imagine having one of the better starting left tackles in this league for only $2 million next season. I mean, we will have to re-sign him immediately. We'll see how he looks for the rest of this season. And if he looks great, if he looks as good as he's looked these last 2 weeks against some of the better D-lines in the NFL, the Giants D-line is very underrated. The Cowboys D-line has a lot of talent. They haven't been able to be very consistent as a group, but they have a lot of talent there between Alden Smith and DeMarcus Lawrence. I mean, he's been going against some really good players. And if he can keep this up for the rest of the season, I say sign him to a contract extension this offseason before his contract ends after the 2021 season and he becomes an unrestricted free agent. I say pay him money too. Don't pull a Eric Flowers and just let him walk somewhere else after you just grew him, groomed him, developed him, and all of that type of stuff, and he revived his career here. Make sure you solidify Cornelius Lucas if he goes out here and balls for the remainder of this season. Because we have the Steelers, who has one of the best defenses in the NFL, maybe even top 3. 49ers are hurt, but they still have a pretty good defensive line, even with all of the injuries in the defensive line. And we play the Cowboys again, and we already know the Eagles' D-line is no joke. So Cornelius Lucas, let's see what you do for the rest of this season. If you keep balling out the way you've been doing these past 2 games, gotta give him money. I'm sorry, gotta give it to him. This developmental season from Ron Rivera, if Cornelius Lucas ends up being a Pro Bowl level left tackle, then Ron Rivera is gonna look like a genius. Kendall Fuller's career came back here and was revived. Terry McLaurin is only getting better. Antonio Gibson is getting better and better by the game. Cole Holcomb looks better than he did last year. He looks like he finally improved in pass coverage. Probably some other players I'm missing on. But if Cornelius Lucas and Bryce Love turn out to be ballers, then this developmental sacrifice year would have been well worth it, especially if we take a great quarterback at the top of the draft in this draft with a top pick. That's the perfect scenario for me. And then it's not even just Cornelius Lucas. According to DVOA, with their advanced statistics from the Football Outsiders, we now have the 15th ranked offensive line. You know how crazy that is? The first 4 games, the offensive line that Dwayne Haskins had to deal with, he had a bottom 3. I think we were ranked 28th back then. And now we have the 15th. So within these last 5 games, well, really these last 4, because that Rams game was probably the worst game we've seen from the offensive line. But they've played so well these last 3 weeks that even with how bad they looked those first few weeks, they still managed to bring their rank up to 15th. Just imagine if they played as well as they did these past few weeks from week 1. We'd probably be top 10. So just to let y'all know, this offensive line is nowhere near as bad as y'all think. I don't think it's anything to really panic over. Wes Schweitzer is a pretty decent plug-in at left guard, but I don't think he's just a franchise guy. He's a great backup, high-tier backup left guard at this point, but if we can go and get a Joe Thuney in free agency for $16 million a year, we would still probably have what, like 70, 80 million cap space left to spend money anywhere else we want to. And we would have a top half of the league offensive line easily. So I don't like the argument that don't take a quarterback at the top of this draft because our offensive line is so bad, when these past few weeks they've actually become way better. I mean, of course we looked bad in the beginning. There were a lot of chemistry issues. Javon Christian, it was his first time starting. Wes Martin, it was his first time starting at left guard. And then we weeded out Wes Martin and figured out Wes Schweitzer was better than him. Then Javon Christian got hurt, and now Cornelius Lucas is playing even better than Javon Christian was. Our offensive line is actually pretty good lately. And it should be pretty good going into next season, especially if we can go and get somebody like a Joe Thuney at left guard. Or when he opts back into the NFL after COVID is done. Hopefully by the 2021 season, we can go and get Larry Warford. He went to 3 straight Pro Bowls, and then the Saints, I think, released him or something like that. And then he ended up opting out of the season. We can go and get him for probably even cheaper than we would go get a Joe Thuney. And again, after we do that and re-sign Brandon Sheriff to whatever money he wants, because we have enough cap space to do that, go get other guys and re-sign guys like Terry McLaurin if we wanted to. I mean, we just have too much money right now coming up this 2021 offseason. After that, we literally would have a top half of the league offensive line, arguably even top 10. Because if they're performing like a top 15 offensive line right now without Joe Thuney or a Larry Warford, imagine what happens when we go and get those guys. So I say go and get a Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson. I already know Trevor Lawrence is out of the question. He's out of reach. Put them behind this offensive line. Go and get another receiver to go with Terry McLaurin and potentially Cam Sims. We'll see how he looks for the rest of this season. And we're ready to go. I don't think this rebuild is going to be as long and as much of a struggle as a lot of y'all think. This offensive line is way better than y'all think. I keep saying it, but I mean it. But that's the end of this video. Just wanted to prove those 2 points right there. As always, please like this video if you liked it. If you learned anything, please get in the comment section and let me know how you feel about everything I discussed in this video. And definitely subscribe if you haven't. Hit that bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification every time I release a video like this. Every time I schedule a live stream, every time I start live streaming, all of that. And as always, man, I really appreciate everybody that contributes to the channel, everybody that donates, all of my sponsors, no matter what level you are, especially the all-pro sponsors whose names you see scrolling on the screen right now, and my one all-pro sponsor in Troy Cabrera. Shouts out to all of y'all, man. I really appreciate y'all. I'm coming out with some more videos. I'm planning on coming out with a mock draft sometime this week and a film session sometime this week before we play the Lions. And I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.